Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraya. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya. Bhagavati uttam shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 29, talks between Narad and King Prachin Barhi, text number 38 onwards. So Achira Deva Rajarshe Syadachyut Kathashraya Shanvatah Shuddhanasya Nityada Syad Adhiyataha. O best of kings, one who is faithful, who is always hearing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always engaged in the culture of Krishna consciousness and in hearing of the Lord's activities, very soon becomes eligible to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. So then in the previous verse, Narad Muni was saying, the real interest of the living entity is to get out of the nescience that causes him to endure repeated birth and death. The only remedy is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his representative. And now he's saying one who does that, one who engages in serving, one who is faithful, always hearing the glories, he sees, very soon he becomes eligible to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. Constant engagement in the transcendental loving service of Vasudeva means constantly hearing the glories of the Lord. The principles of Bhakti Yoga, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam are the only means by which perfection can be attained. Simply by hearing of the glories of the Lord, one is elevated to the transcendental platform. So hearing Shravanam is the first process, and it's very powerful, or we can say most powerful process. Yatra Bhagavata Rajan Sadvo Vishadashayaha Bhagavad Gunanu Kathan Shravan Vyagra Chetasaha Tasmin Mahan Mukharita Madhubhir Charitra Piyu Mukharita Madhubhir Charitra Piyu Shashe Sarita Parita Srivanti Taye Pibanti Vitrisho Naripagala Karnes Tana Sprishanti Ashantring Bhaya Shoka Moha. My dear king, in the place where pure devotees live, following the rules and regulations and thus purely conscious, and engaged with great eagerness in hearing and chanting the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In that place, if one gets a chance to hear the constant flow of nectar, which is exactly like the waves of a river, one will forget the necessities of life, namely hunger and thirst, and become immune to all kinds of fear, lamentation, and delusion. The cultivation of Krishna consciousness is possible where great devotees live together and constantly engage in hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. In a holy place like Vrindavan, there are many devotees constantly engaged in chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord. If one gets a chance to hear from pure devotees in such a place, allowing the constant flow of the river of nectar to come from the mouths of pure devotees, then the cultivation of Krishna consciousness becomes very easy. When one is engaged in constantly hearing the glories of the Lord, he certainly rises above the bodily conception. When one is in the bodily conception, he feels the pangs of hunger and thirst, fear, lamentation, and delusion. But when one is engaged in hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, he transcends the bodily conception. So this is the benefit. Of course, the real benefit is we develop love for Krishna, but to come to that level, one has to go beyond the bodily level of life, bodily level of consciousness. And when that happens, the pangs of hunger and thirst, fear, lamentation, illusion, all are gone. And looks like through Narad Muni, Shukdev Goswami is telling Parikshit Maharaj the same thing. Because it's a fourth canto, towards the end of fourth canto, so must be 2 days, 2 or 3, 2 days must have gone, must be gone, Parikshit Maharaj hearing. So 2 days of no getting up, no eating, no drinking, no sleeping, nothing. And that just hearing the glories of the Lord. The word Bhagavad Gunanukathan, Shravana Vyagra Chetasa, meaning always here, eager to find the place where the glories of the Lord are being heard and chanted, is significant in this verse. And Vyagra Chetasa means always eager. Eager means running towards that place. I want to hear more. A businessman is always very eager to go to a place where business is transacted. Of course, Prabhupada didn't say it here, but he said it other places, like a drunkard. Drunkard is always willing to go to, or not just willing, he's looking for this place to go where people are gathering together for drinking. So similarly, a devotee, he also wants to drink, but he wants to drink the nectar of the holy names, nectar of the glories of the Lord. So, and his drinking is through his ears. So he also wants to look for those places. Similarly, a devotee is very eager to hear from the lips of liberated devotees. As soon as one hears the glories of the Lord from the liberated devotees, he immediately becomes impregnated with Krishna consciousness. This is also confirmed in the following verse. In the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and to the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and therefore he is freed and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begin. So these are the stages on the path of bhakti, on the progress of bhakti. So this, when we become eager to hear, means adu shraddha tata sadhu sangha. And sadhu sangha, what will do? Bhajan kriya. This hearing is part of bhajan kriya. And when one does that, his attraction becomes fixed, means nishtha. And that's what Shloka says, ratir shraddha ratir bhaktir anukramashyati. So then the real devotion and devotion service begin. So then he gets attracted, ruchi, asakti, bhav, prema. In the association of pure devotees, one becomes attached to hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. In this way, one can cultivate Krishna consciousness. And as soon as this cultivation is advanced, one can become faithful to the Lord, devoted to the Lord and attached to the Lord. And thus one can very quickly attain full Krishna consciousness. The secret of success in cultivation of Krishna consciousness is hearing from the right person. A Krishna conscious person is never disturbed by the bodily necessities, namely eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Never disturbed in the sense Krishna can arrange for him. And then when he even makes further progress, then he doesn't even care. He is content with whatever he has. In fact, he is grateful to Krishna for whatever Krishna has provided. Just like in Vrindavan, there was one sadhu. There are so many sadhus, so many devotees, and very, very elevated devotees, but we won't be even able to recognize them. They are such kind of devotees. They live so simply, like a beggar. They would be there. We won't be able to recognize is that a devotee of such a high caliber. So such a devotee, such a sadhu was there, and it was cold like this time, or maybe more cold in January. And the sadhu only had one blanket, and he used to cover his body with that blanket at night when it was cold. So in the morning, he had gone to take bath in Yamuna. And when he came back, some thief had stolen that blanket. That blanket wasn't there. It was gone. So sadhu being sadhus, they are the devotees means fully surrendered and fully surrendered to Krishna and have full faith in Krishna. And they would be, for everything, they would be just saying it's all Krishna's arrangement. So when that blanket was gone, sadhu was, instead of worried about this cold, how I'm going to survive this cold of Vrindavan, and Vrindavan gets really cold. He was thinking, oh, my dear Lord, it's good that you took away that blanket, because I was sleeping in that blanket, cozy blanket, and at night I would waste so much of time. Now it's good. Blanket is gone, so I cannot sleep, and I can spend time in chanting your name. That was his mood. Of course, we cannot imitate that mood or that expression, but we can only pray to Krishna to let me come to that kind of level, which we can only read about in different books or in different scriptures. So, so more we advance and more we want to advance, and tests will always be there, always. And in that test, Krishna wants to see how gratefully we are still serving him. And Krishna will always be there to protect, to serve his devotees in whichever way. Every dealing with every devotee is different. So there's no one standard rule. Only rule is Krishna will be there. He is always there to protect. That's all. Text 41. Etaruptruto nityam jivaloka swabhavaja na karoti hareranunam katham ritanidhoratim. Because the conditioned soul is always disturbed by the worldly necessities such as hunger and thirst, he has very little time to cultivate attachment to hearing the nectarian words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unless one is associated with devotees, he cannot cultivate Krishna consciousness. Nirjan Bhajan, cultivating Krishna consciousness in a solitary place, is not possible for the neophyte, for he will be disturbed by the worldly necessities, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Being so disturbed, one cannot cultivate Krishna consciousness. We therefore see that devotees known as Sahajiyas, who make everything very easy, do not associate with advanced devotees. Such persons, in the name of devotional service activities, are addicted to all kinds of sinful acts: illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. There are many so-called devotees passing themselves off as devotees while engaging in these sinful activities. In other words, one who is influenced by sinful activity cannot be accepted as a person in Krishna consciousness. A person addicted to sinful life cannot develop Krishna consciousness, as indicated in this verse. So here, although in the verse it only says bodily necessities such as hunger and thirst, but it could be any bodily necessity, and if one is disturbed by that, one is so much attached to that, means he has to make more progress. That's all. And more we make progress in bhakti, more these bodily necessities, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, they go down. We don't have to reduce them artificially. They are bodily necessities. And artificially, if we do, we can get sick, or we can completely lose faith. But for sure, those who are making progress, all these four necessities, they go down. Like 6 Goswamis, Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, they were the main, and they both were the ministers in the kingdom of Nawab Hussain Shah. And when they left everything, came to Vrindavan, so they were hardly eating anything, sleeping. They were sleeping under a different tree every night, and how much one can sleep under a tree. No question of mating or defending. Even defending doesn't only mean not defending one's body. They were not even defending or trying to defend their reputation. Even subtle defense was not there. Completely surrendered. And there was no disturbance in the mind either. It could be that I'm not defending myself, but I could be disturbed in my mind. And on top of that, if we still work for the benefit of the person who is offending us, that is even further, going further. That was the mood of the 6 Goswamis. So that is a person who's advanced in devotional service. Haridas Thakur, he was Namacharya, but when he was being beaten up in 22 marketplaces, he was not even trying to defend. He forget about defending. He was even praying for the welfare of the soldiers who were mercilessly beating him up. From time to time, he would look at the soldiers with a smile on his face, saying, "I'm forgiving you." And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he showed his in the Sat Prahar Leela, he called Haridas Thakur and he said, "Haridas, I was there with my Sudarshan Chakra. I was ready to cut off the heads of those soldiers who were beating you up. But you were constantly forgiving them. So my Sudarshan Chakra would not even leave my hand. It could not. Even Sudarshan Chakra was helpless." That's a devotee. And then Mahaprabhu told him that only thing I could do was to protect you. So I covered your body with mine. So I took all the blows of all the hunter whips or whatever the soldiers were doing. I took the blows on my body and I protected you. So that's why devotees, devotional service, and Bhagwan, I mean the dealings with the Bhagwan, nobody can understand. Nobody. Even devotees have to be at that level of devotional service to understand those dealings. Understand in the sense, not just theoretical understanding or reading about in books. to really realize those dealings. It's so difficult. That's why there is a book, Nectar of Devotion. Of course, Prabhupada wrote it as Nectar of Devotion, but the original book is Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. So it's an ocean. It's an ocean of devotion. Ocean, nobody knows how deep it is. Similarly, bhakti, the ocean is so deep, so deep, so deep. And the parakashta or perfection of that ocean is Srimati Radharani. And that is why when people speak nonsensically about Radharani and Krishna, they just don't know. They don't even know one drop of that ocean. Forget about one drop, one particle of that drop. They don't even know. And they think they can comment upon the dealings of Srimati Radharani. And here Prabhupada said, those who are addicted to all kinds of sinful acts, they cannot make advancement in bhakti. Forget about advancement in bhakti. They cannot even understand what bhakti is. So that is our position actually. Text 42-44. Prajapati Pati Sakshat Bhagwan Girisho Mano Dakshadaya Prajadhyaksha Nashtika Sanakadaya Marichir Atrayangaraso Pulaspya Pulaha Krituhu Bhrigur Vasisht Itiete Madanta Brahmavadina Adyapi Vachas Patyas Tapu Vidya Samadhivi Pashyanto Apina Pashyanti Pashyantam Parameshwaram. The most powerful Lord Brahma, the father of all progenitors, Lord Shiva, Manu, Daksha, and the other rulers of humankind, the four saintly first-class brahmacharis, headed by Sanak and Sanatan, the great sages Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulastya, Pulaha, Kritu, Bhrigu, and Vasishtha, and my humble self, Narad Muni is saying, are all stalwart Brahmins who can speak authoritatively on Vedic literature. We are very powerful because of austerities, meditation, and education. Nonetheless, even after inquiring about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whom we always see, we do not know perfectly about him. So this is the realization of Narad Muni, the spiritual master of the whole universe. He's a Mahajan, pure devotee. He is saying, even we do not know perfectly about him. So what to speak of anybody? Even you think, Brahmaji, Shivji, Vasishtha, all these great sages, nobody knows it. According to the foolish Darwinian theory of the anthropologists, it is said that 40,000 years ago, Homo sapiens had not appeared on this planet because the process of evolution had not reached that point. However, the Vedic histories, the Puranas and Mahabharata relate human histories that extend millions and millions of years into the past. In the beginning of creation, there was a very intelligent personality, Lord Brahma. And from him emanated all the Manus and the Brahmacharis like Sanak and Sanatan, as well as Lord Shiva, the great sages, and Narad. All these personalities underwent great austerities and penances and thus became authorities in Vedic knowledge. Perfect knowledge for human beings as well as all living entities is contained in the Vedas. All the above mentioned great personalities are not only powerful, being cognizant of past, present, and future, but are also devotees. Still, in spite of their great education and knowledge, and despite their meeting the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, they cannot actually understand the perfection of the living entity's relationship with Lord Vishnu. This means that these personalities are still limited as far as their knowledge of the unlimited is concerned. Conclusion is that simply by advancing one's knowledge, one cannot be accepted as an expert in understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Supreme Personality of Godhead can be understood not by advanced knowledge, but by pure devotional service. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati. Unless one takes to pure transcendental devotional service, he cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead in truth. Everyone has some imperfect ideas about the Lord. So called scientists and philosophical speculators are unable to understand the Supreme Lord by virtue of their knowledge. Knowledge is not perfect unless one comes to the platform of devotional service. So, only by knowledge, no way one can understand the Lord. The speculators, the Gyanis, go on speculating about the Supreme Personality of Godhead for many, many hundreds of thousands of years. But unless one is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot understand His supreme glories. All the great sages mentioned in this verse had their planets near Brahmaloka, the planet where Lord Brahma resides, along with four great sages, Sanak, Sanatan, Sanandan, and Sanat Kumar. These sages reside in different stars known as the southern stars, which circle the pole star. The pole star called Dhruvaloka is the pivot of this universe, and all planets move around this pole star. All the stars are planets as far as we can see within this one universe. According to Western theory, all the stars are different suns, but according to Vedic information, there is only one sun within this universe. All the so called stars are but different planets. Besides this universe, there are millions of other universes, and each of them contains similar innumerable stars and planets. And all these planets are inhabited by either great sages or great people or demigods are controlling each and every planet. But despite their position, despite their uh, closeness to Brahmaloka or to Pole Star, they cannot know Krishna by their knowledge. So only by devotional service we can understand him. Okay, so we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, yesterday we heard another sad news. There was somewhere here in Ayodhya one bad person who is actually known to me, and he was very young, like at the age of 30. He had a major heart attack last weekend, and he
Oh,
passed away. So I was annoyed because of hearing about
oh,
earlier Adik Prabhuji and then this folk, and then a little sad in the evening yesterday, and I was talking to my parent about it. That what is it like? It's all artificial. Everything is, but still we are entangled. Every day we think about it. Some sad news we hear, and we are just out of this material world. We think oh, this is all artificial, and then again we entangle every time. And when we talk about that consciousness level, where I mean that's absolutely very teeny. Like when we think that we'll go to abode of Krishna consciousness, Vaikuntha Lok, that's far beyond our imagination, because first of all, this Devlok, Brahmalok, all this comes, and there are so many uh, big time sadhus are there who are already doing austerities, and they are not achieving it. So, and then I think my parents said that this is what Prabhupada also they said like this, that Prabhupada says about it, that be in the Grihastha ashram and do your daily activity. Do not leave that, like a kite thread. do not leave that thread. Keep on chanting, keep on doing that activity, and you perform your daily household core activities, and hopefully you will attain that. But sometimes, Prabhuji, being a human being, I get confused. Like, is it possible being in the Grihastha ashram and still doing with all core activities of household and also chanting, and by that can somebody attain a Vaikuntha Lok? Is it possible?
Yeah, from
Very tough,
Prabhupada's
Prabhuji.
books. Once Narad Muni had asked this question to Lord Vishnu, that he said that you are always talking about, always glorifying Grahastha devotees. So how is it possible? The Grahasthas, they hardly perform all these austerities and devotional activities as much as brahmacharis or sannyasis do, but you're always glorifying Grahasthas. So Vishnuji said, okay, if I give him an answer like this, he will not understand. So let me give him a demonstration. So he asked Narad Muni, okay, Narad Muni gave him a pot of oil. Oil was filled up to the brim of the pot. And he said, Narad Muni, you take this pot, go all around the universe and come back to me. But make sure not even a single drop of the oil should come out of the pot, should be spilled. Narad Muni said, what is this? I'm asking you a serious question and you're giving me this kind of job. Lord Vishnu said, just do it. No, what's the problem? And Narad Muni, being Narad Muni, it was not difficult for him. So he went around and he came back with the pot, not a single drop spilled. So Lord Vishnu asked him, so while you were doing this, what were you thinking? Narad Muni said, well, I was thinking my full concentration was on the oil, so nothing should spill. Vishnuji asked, so you didn't think of me? You didn't chant my name? You were like, Narad Muni Bajai Veena, Radhika Raman Name? He said, no, I was concentrating on the work you gave me. This was my devotional service. So then Lord Vishnu started smiling. Narad Muni asked him, why are you smiling? He said, see, all the Grihasthas, while carrying out their duties, working hard, taking care of the family, taking care of the society, relatives, and while doing all this, they're chanting, they're doing the devotional services also. That's why they're very dear to me. Brahmacharis or sannyasis, they have nothing else to do but to do devotional service and austerities. But the Grihasthas, they're doing so many other activities, but at the same time, I'm not glorifying, but they are attending Bhagavatam classes or chanting and doing other activities. And donations, because charity can only be done by Grihasthas. So they are doing all this. So that's why they're very dear to me. So yes, when we read all these purports, it looks very difficult, but by mercy of Prabhupada, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, everything is easy. So all we have to do is carry on with our sadhana bhakti. Very, very important.
Yeah, Prabhuji. Thank you
Hari
so
bol.
much. Prabhuji.
Perfect answer,
Hari
Prabhuji.
bol.
Thank you.
Absolutely,
Thank you,
absolutely.
Mata.
माता जी
Perfect question,
कंफ्यूजन
Prabhuji.
कंफ्यूजन हो जाता है. आई आई मुझे ऐसा लग रहा था कि दिस क्वेश्चन इज नॉट फॉर मी ओनली, फॉर
नहीं सबके लिए था ये.
सबके लिए था. बट देन प्रॉब्ली हैज आंसर्ड सो वेल, इतने नाइसली आंसर्ड कि क्लियर्ड ऑल डाउट्स.
So don't have any doubts, just continue with your best and try to improve on it. That's all.
Surely, Prabhuji.
Okay. So thank you all very much. You all have a wonderful and safe day. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Jai Shri
Jai Srila
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.